everyone, my name is Paige and today I'm going to be doing my October wrap-up and November TBR. I read a total of 14 books in October, which was kind of surprising considering, like, I don't know, I just expected to read less, I think. But I read a bunch of good books and I read a bunch of great books, so let's jump right into it. Let's try that again. One of the first books I read this month was Star Wars Galaxy's Edge: A Crash of Fate by Zoraida Cordova, and I really enjoyed this one. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, and honestly, one of the main reasons I picked it up was because my boyfriend actually works in Galaxy's Edge over at Disneyland, so I wanted to read this and kind of get a better understanding of the world that he works in, and it was really great for that. I had a really good time reading this. I really enjoyed the characters, and there was a ton of action and adventure, and it was just really cool to read it and then go to Galaxy's Edge afterwards and kind of see, obviously, the area that they were exploring and having all their adventures in, and I don't know, I just really enjoyed the overall experience, and I really like that Disney is actually doing these books that kind of pair up with like movies and different lands, obviously, in the park, and I just think it's a really awesome idea and a really great way to like expand the universe, so I really enjoyed this one. The next book I read was Finale by Stephanie Garber. As most people know, I'm totally obsessed with the Caraval series, so to finally finish it was kind of sad, but also just basically bittersweet because I really enjoyed this last one, but I didn't want the series to end. It was really interesting to see everything kind of come together in this last book, especially since there's been so much buildup ever since like the first book, so I think it was really interesting to see how the characters finally fall in this last book. I have to admit I didn't enjoy this as much as Caraval, which I think is my favorite of all of them, but I did, I think, enjoy it a little bit more than Legendary. I don't know why I always have to check that it's called Legendary, not Legend. You know, I can't really say too much because I don't want to give away spoilers if you haven't read the first two, so all I can say is read the first two, they're really good, and then, you know, you'll just finally breeze your way into Finale. The next book I read was actually a graphic novel and one that I've been wanting to read for a while, and that was Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me. This is by Mariko Tamaki. I feel like what I wrote down, because I've been keeping a bullet journal recently and I've been writing mini reviews of each book that I read, and I think what I wrote here after finishing it kind of sums it up. A very interesting LGBTQ graphic novel touching on some very real topics. I love the art style and I was completely immersed, which basically sums it all up. It's a little bit longer graphic novel than I was expecting. I was reading it on my Kindle and I was like, wow, this keeps going and going, but it wasn't one of those books where you felt like it was going on too long, so I really did enjoy it. And I love the subtleties of like the coloring in the graphic novel, so like everything was pretty much in black and white, but there were certain points where things were colored pink, and those were like more of the important moments or things that like then stuck out later, and I just really enjoyed those little subtleties because I feel like you don't find that a lot in graphic novels. Everything is just like full-blown color or it's just black and white, so to have something like that was really interesting to see. The next book I read was Siege and Storm, and this is by Leigh Bardugo. Remember last month when I said I was like, I'm gonna read the entire Shadow and Bone series, and I'm also gonna read Six of Crows again, and King of Scars, and Language of Florence? Yeah, I didn't do any of that. I only finished this one. I don't know why. I was like really excited to start Ruin and Rising, but I just never did. And that's not to say I didn't like this one, because I did. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, but I don't know. I think I got distracted with other things that I had checked out from the library, and I was like, well, I want to read those first. So I think I definitely want to get to Ruin and Rising this month, but you know, we'll see if that actually happens. I have to say though, with this one, I think it was not quite as interesting as Shadow and Bone, but I think the characters are developing more and some of them are becoming a lot more annoying for me. Looking at you, Mal. Can't stand him. He's just so annoying. But I still really love Alina, and I think she's just a really interesting main character, and I want to see her like kick ass and totally take over the Darkling, and I don't know, there's just a lot of conflicting things going on in this book, and we'll see what happens in the very last one. Moving on from there, I then read Sailor Moon Eternal Edition #1, and this is by, I need to read the name from my bullet journal, Naoko Takeuchi? Could be saying that wrong. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. I've never read a Sailor Moon manga before, and I really wanted to read actually the Eternal editions versus like the regular manga because they're a little bit bigger and the art style is a little bit clearer. You know, like the mangas are a little bit shorter and the Eternal editions are a little bit larger. Actually, I think I have an example of one. So this is kind of a weird example, but this is like a regular size manga. This is just one of my fruits baskets, and then the Eternal editions are these massive paperbacks. So as you can see, like they're almost double the size, and I just really like that because, like I said, you can like really see more of of the details in the artwork, and the text is obviously bigger, and I just really enjoyed reading them in this format. So anyway, I read Sailor Moon Eternal Edition 1, and then I quickly moved on to Eternal Edition number 2, and I just really enjoyed the first two. I thought it was a really interesting story, and I really liked learning about the different Sailor Moon characters. Now, I tried watching the anime, but I actually didn't like it as much as the manga. I felt that it moved a little too slowly for me, because the manga is very like fast-paced, and it just really is like go, 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 but the anime was just moving so slowly, and I eventually just gave up on it. But for both of the first two Eternal Editions, I gave them both 5 out of 5 stars. Moving on from there, I read a series that I've been talking about all month because I have quickly fallen in love with it, and I think it's going to be one of my favorite series of the year, and that's Three Dark Crowns by Kendara Blake. I've said this before, but I don't know what took me so long to pick up this series because I'm really enjoying it, and right now I'm listening to the audiobook of Five Dark Fates, which is the last in the series, unfortunately. But I'm really enjoying this. I really like the characters. Again, the characters are just so interesting, and I love that they're kind of split up into these 3 different little places on the island, because then you get to know them and like their personalities and the people around them, and you kind of get to decide who your favorite is. And obviously I gave the first one 5 out of 5 stars. And obviously right after that I read One Dark Throne, which is the sequel, and again 5 out of 5 stars. I totally love this one, and it was just interesting to see how the characters are developing more, and like this competition for the throne is really like heating up, and there's just a lot of developments, and it's just so fun, and I love like the whole magic system, and again, once again, the characters are just amazing. And obviously right after that I then read Two Dark Reigns, and again, I can't say anything more than I love the characters, love the setting, love the magic system, love the adventures and the intrigue and everything, and it's just so great. Taking a break from prose novels, I then picked up The Language of Fire, and this is by Stephanie Hemphill. I've had this arc on my shelves for a while now, so I decided I would finally pick it up. This is a story about Joan of Arc, who I find really interesting. This is my second Joan of Arc poetry novel that I've read this year, and I think it's better than the other one I read. However, I don't know why I keep trying to read poetry and thinking that I'll like it, because I just totally lose something in the words, and it just really isn't for me. This was interesting, but it just kind of fell flat for me because I just don't like poetry. So I did end up giving this one only 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was actually a reread, and it was the first book that I read this year, and that was Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan. This time around I listened to the audiobook instead of reading it, which I think really helped with me understanding the world and the characters and how to just like pronounce everyone's names, because I was really struggling with that when I was just reading the arc. And I think this time around I probably enjoyed it a little bit more. I'm actually very excited to rush right into the sequel, which I have. So right now I'm currently also reading Ruthless Gods, and it's just so much easier for me now because in my head I can pronounce the characters' names correctly. Like I said, I understand the magic system and the worlds a lot better, so I think this is going to be more enjoyable for me now than if I had just read the novel. So I highly recommend, if you're struggling with like pronunciation and stuff, definitely pick up the audiobook because the reader does an excellent job. All that being said though, I did keep Wicked Saints at my original star rating, which was 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, so the next book I read was Alana: The First Adventure by Tamora Pierce. I have quickly become so obsessed with Tamora Pierce. I really love her writing, and I want to read the entire Tortall series, and I'm not just talking about like the first 4 Alana books. I want to read the entire thing. So obviously I read Alana and I really liked it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It was written in the 80s, so like the writing style is a little bit different, but honestly that didn't even hinder like my enjoyment of it. I listened to the audiobook and flew through that, and I think again the reader did a really great job. The story is already so like rich, and there's just tons of stuff going on, and time moves very quickly throughout this novel and then the other novels as well, and I just really love it. I love girls that are, you know, kick-ass and wield swords and stuff, and it's just really cool. I wish I had read these when I was younger, but I guess it just never really sparked my interest. I don't know. And then the next book I read was Sailor Moon Eternal Edition number 3. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. This one I felt it dragged just a little too long, and there were certain characters that I was like, ugh, like this is the same copy of what we've already kind of read, especially the bad guys. I felt like it was just kind of the same thing over and over. And then I also felt that way when I read Sailor Moon Eternal Edition number 4. Again, 4 out of 5 stars for me. It just felt like things were dragging on too long. There were interesting developments with the Sailor Moon characters, but overall it just kind of felt like a lot of the same to me. That's not to say that I'm still not enjoying the series, because I am, but I just hope that it kind of takes like a different twist for me and kind of surprises me in the next ones. So that's everything that I read in October. Now let's talk about what I want to read in November. Okay, so like I mentioned, there's actually quite a few books that I'm currently reading, so obviously I want to finish those first, and I'll talk about those first. The first one being, of course, Ruthless Gods by Emily A. Duncan. I already talked about this. This is the sequel to Wicked Saints, so hopefully I will finish this massive book before the end of the month. I've only read like 60 pages. I went through those very quickly, but I think I just need to settle down and like read the rest of them. I'm also currently reading Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. I have fallen onto the hype train with this one and just want to consume the entire series. I actually started listening to it as an audiobook, but then my audiobook digital copy expired, so I'm waiting for it again at the library, and I've been trying to convince myself to just actually like read it and not wait for the audiobook, but I just really like the way the reader does it, and I think I would get too distracted with all the footnotes and everything, so I don't know. We'll see if I actually end up finishing this one this month, if my audiobook comes back in. And then one I actually hope to finish today is The Woman Who Rides Like a Man. This is the third book in the Song of the Lioness series, again by Tamora Pierce. This is part of the like Alana series. I already finished the second one last week, so I just need to finish this one and then I can move on to the fourth one. Which, of course, that being said, I would then really like to read the fourth one, which is Lioness Rampant, again Tamora Pierce, last in the Alana series, and then yeah, I want to move on to the rest of the books in the Tortall series. Another fantasy book that I've been hearing about a lot and one that I really want to get to this month is Gideon the Ninth, and this is by Tamsin Muir. I hope I'm saying that right. I love the black sprayed edges on this. It's so cool. I picked this one up from my library because I don't own a copy, so that's why I kind of want to get to it a little bit more quickly than like say some of these other fantasy books I have sitting right here. I've heard mixed things about this, so I'm not too sure if I'm gonna like it, but we will see. I don't know why, but every winter I end up seeming to reread this series. It's just like a feel-good series that I like to read in the wintertime. I don't know why the wintertime specifically, but it's always around Christmas that I end up reading these. So I'd really like to do another reread of the Fruits Basket series by Natsuki Takaya, if I'm saying that right, Takaya. I have these big collector's editions, but not all of them, but I have all of the regular manga ones, but I'd really like to read the collector's editions this time around, just because they're so much bigger and so beautiful, and I really love them. And what really made me want to reread these was I had finished the anime that has been re-released, and they're doing such a good job with it to really include more of this manga in it and like more of the overall story. So I really just want to reread the manga and then very impatiently wait for the rest of the anime to come out. And I don't know, I love this series so much. It's literally one of my favorite series of all time, and if you've never read this, pick it up. Like, you'll really enjoy it. It goes much deeper than like you think it does. And I think that's everything I'm gonna pretty much try to get to this month. I, as usual, don't want to force myself to like read a lot of stuff if I make a really long list, so just gonna try to finish up the ones I'm already currently reading, maybe start the Fruits Basket series, and then read a couple other fantasy books because I'm just so obsessed with fantasy recently. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you read anything exciting in October, definitely let me know, or if you're gonna read anything really cool in November, especially if it's like fantasy based, definitely let me know because I love hearing recommendations. You can leave all your comments down below. Also down below you will find links for my Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, so you can connect with me there and see more pictures and stay more up to date on what I am reading. Also down below you'll find links as always for coupon codes for the book sleeve shop that I run with my mom. So if you guys are looking for getting some book sleeves for your friends for Christmas or something, I definitely recommend getting them now so that we can ship them out early to you guys. But you'll find links down there, like I said, for coupon codes and such, and all the information's down in the description box. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!